Alright, so we finally reached the conclusion for this season. We finally have the finale for season 5. And yeah, it was meh. And I'm talking about the entirety of the season, not just the finale episode. The finale episode, it's whatever, right? It's whatever you want it to be, because ultimately it shows the characters and what they've learned and how they've progressed since the first half of the season, and then a couple of extra stuff afterwards, and then some stuff regarding around the Meta Liberation Army or the Paranormal Liberation Front or whatever the fuck they want to be called. I don't care. It's whatever you want it to be. The finale episode is just whatever, and then after the credits at the end, they tease season 6, which is going to be what is essentially My Hero Academia's war arc between the heroes and the Paranormal Liberation Front. So, whenever we get it around, I'm going to go ahead and assume and make an estimate that we're probably going to get season 6 around this time frame, maybe in like August, or no, probably around like the end of September next year is when I would probably expect season 6 to come out. Unless they just want to, delay it for March of 2023, then they can go ahead and do that as well. It might actually serve them better if they actually went ahead and did that, but I don't know. It really depends on whether or not the production wants to get season 6 out as soon as possible. But now I think it's time for me to really say what I really thought about the entirety of the season for season 5, and I thought it was okay. I thought it started off decently strong in the first half because it was showing us characters that we don't really get to see too often doing stuff, and even showing off some characters that I didn't even really know existed, and I didn't even know what their powers really were, and it was really cool seeing them. And then you get into the second half, and the second half was supposed to be arguably more interesting, and that's where some of the big stuff is supposed to be happening, because it's regarding around the villains, and the villains are supposed to actually get significant character growth and significant character motivation. And it just sort of feels like they didn't really get that. And I think the main reason for that is because they simply just didn't have enough production time to get around to actually getting around to showing off these characters' motivations and their growth and their journey into who they're going to eventually end up being, mainly being what they're going to be like later on as the show continues on. And just, I don't know, just the second half of the season just wasn't really anything spectacular, because the visuals didn't really match up with what the characters were supposed to be doing. It didn't really look that spectacular. There were moments where I actually thought it looked okay, and it looked pretty good, but it didn't look nearly as good as it could have. There was a lot of potential that it could have reached, but it just didn't really do that, and so because of that, it just kind of ended up being disappointing visually wise. And then ultimately, just the growth of the characters and everything about them, specifically regarding around the villains, and not even like the Meta Liberation Army, the League of Villain characters. I felt like that we didn't really get to see a whole lot of them grow, to be perfectly honest. Like Spinner, like who even the fuck is he? We see a little bit about him in like an episode for like 5 minutes, and then the episode's just like, nope, we gotta get back to stuff with Shigaraki, because that's the more interesting stuff going on right now. And it just really felt like that either the season was supposed to be longer and they didn't have production to be able to do it, or they should have just cut the first half of the season way shorter, skip to all the big important stuff regarding around specific characters, and then just keep the second half of this arc that was supposed to happen, keep it way longer, have way more episodes to build upon these characters and their growth and their motivations, and expand upon it, and expand upon what the manga even did, do more than what the manga did, maybe even, I don't know, just it wasn't enough, right? We didn't get to see enough of what these characters were supposed to be doing in comparison to what we probably saw in the manga. It just was kind of a disappointment. It wasn't really what I was expecting. It wasn't horrible. I'm not saying it was bad, because I still would like to have seen more, but we have what we have now, and it just kind of feels like they kind of rushed through a lot of stuff regarding specific characters. Like Himiko, she gets like a whole episode to herself, but then she just gets completely incapacitated for the rest of the arc, and she doesn't do anything. And it's like, what is she doing? Like, what are you doing? And then twice, that was really cool how he got through like his mental thing and how he wasn't sure if he was actually a clone or not, but he kind of doesn't really do anything really afterwards after that, and we don't really see any more of his motivation besides he just wants to protect his friends, and that's basically it. Again, Spinner, he's just kind of there in the background, not really doing anything. Dobby basically doesn't do fucking jack shit besides fight one ice user guy, and then that's basically it. And then Shigaraki gets the most development because he's the character that needed the most development in this season. But even then, I feel like we didn't really get to see a whole lot. We could have seen actually way more that led him to revealing what his motivation is and why he's even doing this to begin with, and why ultimately Redestro decides to make him the leader of the Paranormal Liberation Front. I don't know, maybe there just was more that could have been done. You know, maybe they had something, and they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but they couldn't do it. Maybe just for some reason whatever was done in the manga just couldn't be adapted that well into the anime. I don't know what happened, and I would like some answers. If people kind of have an idea of why some of the stuff happened the way it did, let me know in the comments. Maybe tell me which videos I should check out to maybe get some answers, because it's truly baffling that it just kind of, you know, came out the way that it did. Like I said, it wasn't that bad, but I can understand why some fans who were waiting for this to be adapted from the manga into the anime were probably disappointed. And yeah, I can only hope that some of the stuff that's supposed to be happening in the next season is way more interesting, and I hope way more interesting stuff happens between certain characters. I don't know, just the episode itself for the week was fine, but ultimately as an entire season, it just was kind of whatever. It was meh. It was like a 5 out of 10, right? It was middle of the park. It wasn't horrible. I didn't think it was really horrible, but I didn't think it was anything stellar as well in comparison to what we could have gotten. Because some of the most interesting stuff that happens within the season is towards the tail end of the season, but we don't get to see a whole lot of that. So it just kind of ends up being a jumbled, you know, rushed, spoiled mess. So that's all I really have to say. If you liked the video, be sure to like. If you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. See you guys next one. Let me know what your thoughts are on the season down below. I'm out. Peace.